All right, so I got a 2018 1SS Camaro, 58,000 miles, bone stock. All right, this is my daily driver. I work on imports all day normally, so this isn't a platform I'm familiar with. So problem I had mill elimination. I was driving on the interstate with my 3-year-old, had mill elimination, and then immediately lost power, lost everything, and then was just kind of forced pull off on the side of the interstate in no start situation. Right, got it towed. Took it to the shop, scanned it, and saw like 5 codes. Check engine for fuel pump control circuit, and a few other things related to the pump. So what I figured out was, so I ended up putting a new pump in it like many of the other guys, and that didn't really help me at all, because it immediately went into a no start situation. So back behind this guy in the driver's side rear wheel well is the fuel pump control module. And from what everyone had told me, I'd heard everything from fuel pump failure, premature fuel pump failure, to control module failure, or just a bunch of different things related to the control module, then having to go to the dealer and then getting that thing swapped out, and having, it's AC Delco bullshit. They got to reprogram it. So after putting the pump in it, I was like, well, let me at least just investigate things, right? So, so not a lot of information you can find on this platform readily available unless you have an FSM. So if you pull this guy back, the module is back there. What I observed on mine was one of the 4 big wires on the outside terminals, pin 13 to the fuel pump control module. It had backed itself out, and what it seemed like was 2 things. It seemed like the fuel pump control module from the factory sits in there in a 2-tab bracket and just kind of shakes around, right? So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is there's a brown wire on pin 13 that seems like it's just a little too long in the bundle, and it seems like through expansion and contraction and just heat in general, that terminal starts backing itself out and it becomes loose, right? So effectively what I ended up doing to fix it was I kind of manipulated the female part of the terminal, because it had already kind of worn from moving around so much. And another thing too is that I saw slight browning around that pin 13 on the white part of the actual harness connector. So it was an indication that it had been hot. Also inspected my 20 amp, I believe it's a 20, maybe a 30 amp fuse. But your fuel pump control module fuse is kind of like the last one in the middle row, up under your carpet here. It seemed like it had been maybe possibly a little bit hot too. So that being said, I ended up manipulating that female terminal. I actually kind of slightly bent the one on the module itself to make sure that it had a really positive contact. And I used a 2-part epoxy, backfilled it into the position that I wanted it, and I let it set up overnight, actually like 24 hours, with the negative pole on the battery disconnected, and then the module itself disconnected. I wanted it to sit in that one set position to where that female pin can never back itself out. So I did that and put it all back together, zip tied the module into a very secure place so that it's not bouncing around, giving extra opportunity for that wire to back in and out. But I think a lot of these fuel pump, quote unquote, fuel pump failures, fuel pump control module failures, actually related to just this one single brown wire, or maybe it's a different wire on your ear. So just something to investigate first. This seems to have fixed it. I've been driving it. I think I've probably got like probably 15 or 16 hours of drive time on it now. No problems, no mill elimination. It's been running great. So I'm pretty sure that I fixed the problem. But yeah, just see, that way you don't have to get into buying a module and doing a bunch of other crazy stuff, or even putting a fuel pump in it, because that's a real hassle. So if you have those codes, I think the first thing you should do is just check that wiring back there and see if that on that white connector, if it has any browning and it's gotten hot. So hopefully I hope that helps you guys out. P069E and a P023F, I think, were my codes. If not, I'll put them in my description. So I got fuel pump module codes. I got a 2018 Camaro SS. This is just my daily driver. I'm an import mechanic, but you know, I figured I'd make a video on this if this fixes the problem. So I got those codes, about 4 or 5 fuel pump module circuit codes, and I put another pump in there, just thinking, I was like, hey, maybe it's just, you know, it's like 60,000 miles, who knows, you know. So the codes came back, had a no start problem, stall issue. So back here in the rear quarter driver's side wheel well, I found the fuel pump module. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information on this unless you're a GM tech with the factory service manual, and they seem to be pretty expensive. But what I did observe was over here in my fuse box, I have my fuel system control module fuse right there, 20 amp. And I noticed that it had gotten kind of hot, so you know, as far as the look of it. And then so I identified the module, then I pulled this connector, and you know, I went through each individual wire, just pulling it back and forth to see if I had some movement in it. You know, maybe I was having a loss of connection or some kind of voltage surge. So and all of them checked out except for this brown wire. And then this brown wire appears to almost kind of have a kink in it. It's just kind of the position that it sits in there like that. But what it did tell me is that this wire had been hot. And then on the inside, you can see I have a slight amount of browning on the white of the connector. So what I noticed was, this is also terminal 13 on your module, so if you want to know what the actual pin is. But I noticed that this guy, and I don't know if I can set up my phone where I can catch this. Maybe that's pretty good. Yeah, so this wire will just easily kind of go in and out. See how much movement? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also too, on the inside tab of this terminal, so it has a small finger inside, and I can see that it's created a wear pattern to the point to where it's not exactly catching contact, and especially if this thing moves back and forth in and out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate this with a dental pick to try and increase the amount of contact on the female part. And then I'm going to use the 2-part epoxy, and I'm going to force this into place, and I'm going to fill this circular channel up with 2-part epoxy and let it dry overnight. And because I think that what's happening is just through just vehicle vibrations and just the harness's slight movement, that this particular brown wire keeps coming in and out. So I'm hoping that that's going to fix the problem. So I will post the video until I have some more evidence of driving around for a few days.